And we are here with Doug Ford, the progressive conservative leader who's running for the leadership of the province in June. How are you today, Mr. Ford?
Jamie, I'm doing great today. How are you?
Good, good. This is one of the weirdest elections I've seen in this province. You had the issue with the party, which you've come through with no splash on you. And now you're facing a decaying government that has a lot of issues. If you were to name one thing specifically that Ms. Wynne shouldn't be Premier of Ontario for, what would it be in your opinion?
There's so many.
I know.
List of them, but it's just, well, she's put this province in debt, the largest subnational debt in the entire world. That's the only world record that she's ever held. We're at $311 billion and growing. The credit agencies are very, very concerned about their credit rating. We're spending $12 billion a year on servicing our debt. The hydro rates is probably one of the hottest issues right now. Hydro rates people can't afford. They're choosing between heating and eating. And it's the province has just gone downhill. There's 300,000 manufacturing jobs that have left the province. People are hurting out there. Chris Prosser's province, everywhere, and they're same story. I've never seen it, Jamie. You pretty well nailed it when you said never seen an election like this.
Now we're seeing
election in 30 years like this.
We're seeing a lot of hostility towards you from some media outlets as well. How are you dealing with some of the things that the media, and some of the ways that the media are portraying you, and how do you deal with some of the ways that they're trying to maneuver you when you do interviews or with the way they're covering your campaign?
Yeah, I just don't understand that. Media is supposed to be fair and balanced, and not all of them, because there are some really good media outlets, but some of them are just over the top. It's staggering. They don't tell the truth. I'll give you one example about CBC. They wrote or sent this article that I didn't want to sit down with the black community, but that's just a lie. We had a trip booked up north for a 4-day trip, and one of them, I guess they wanted to have a debate on when I was away. I contacted the community and I said I'd love to sit down with you because I know I have massive support. I love the black community; they love me. But CBC gets on and lies and says I don't want to have a meeting with them.
Well, one of the things we're also seeing as a portrayal by media is that they're sort of suggesting that young people and millennials in particular are going to overwhelmingly support Ms. Wynne, and that your brand, the PC brand, is not attractive to people who are under 50. What do you say to something like that?
That's just untruthful. I go to universities and it's overwhelming. I went into Western. The place was packed. The kids were going wild. I went to U of T and Ryerson, and I have 4 kids all just university age. 3 of them are out just recently out of university. One still goes to Laurier. And I connect with the younger people. What they want, the number one thing these university kids want, they want a good paying job when not even a good, they just want a job when they get out of university. And they're finding it very, very difficult to find a job.
Well,
especially make sure this province is prosperous. We have opportunities for students.
Especially here in Eastern Ontario. Now, another big issue in this election seems to be the marijuana file, where Ms. Wynne has agreed to roll out only a small amount of stores, completely government-controlled, which seem to be an impetus to fuel the black market. Now, your position, you've made some statements that were positive to having retail dispensaries. Where do you sort of stand on that issue now?
Well, I've always stood up. I'll be very frank, Jamie. I think I've been asked that twice. There are thousands of people that I've talked to, but I've always said, and I was clear, and they twisted this around a bit, I've always said we need to start off in the liquor stores. That's our issue, by the way. Justin Trudeau, it was up to me. It probably wouldn't even have it. But since it's coming in, I got to consult with the police communities and make sure what we're
Now, speaking of the free market, we have an issue with journalism in Canada and chiefly in Ontario. We're experiencing it with our own news outlet, where in the free market, you're supposed to be allowed to compete for business, and especially government business, because the government, for whatever reason, spends a lot on advertising, yet we're seeing a lot of government advertising going to social media companies like Facebook, which aren't even Canadian organizations, while media outlets are struggling to keep good jobs here in Ontario. Would your government, when you're elected, would you consider having some sort of ban on non-Canadian or non-Ontario government advertising?
Yeah, I believe in letting the market dictate. I don't like banning anything. I think we should support our local communities, our local media people. We should definitely support them over anything. I don't believe the government should be funding media outlets. It's not fair to all the small media outlets when you have this big conglomerate called CBC spending over $1 billion some odd dollars, and when smaller outlets are trying to compete, their heads above water and barely surviving. So one is government funded. At one time, there used to, 50 years ago, there probably was a reason for CBC, for the royal folks to listen to, but now we're wasting money with that organization, and I know it's a federal issue, but that's, again, we should try to support our local people. I always try to support our local people. And we have some really, really good local media. We also have, in the ethnic community, which is a growing market, I just sat down with a group of folks from their media outlets, and, they need to be supported. These people are struggling, the media, and especially now with technology. Everyone from paper media and other media outlets, they're finding it very, very tough to survive. I want them to survive. There's some good paying jobs there.
Well, again, the businesses that pay the taxes into the government seem to have a bigger struggle here in Ontario than other places, which you seem to want to address.
Yeah, something I would love to sit down with Jamie and come up with solutions. My simple theory is, Jamie, is no matter if it's media or healthcare or education, I always surround myself with smarter people than myself and get their ideas. I believe the government should work for the people. Kathleen Wynne believes the people should work for the government. And I just, I don't believe in that. Let the people come up with these great ideas. When I sit down with the doctors and the nurses and the frontline healthcare workers that have been under full attack by this Wynne-level government, and all they're calling me and saying, Doug, I have solutions, but no one's listening to me. I talk to teachers. They're telling me, Doug, we have solutions, but no one's listening to us. So you have some politician that's never taught a class in his life, or a politician trying to tell the doctors how to do their job. That's not right. With the media. The media has ideas to support them. I'm all behind them, 100%.
So switching gears again, focusing on Eastern Ontario, which has a lot of challenges. We have an older demographic in Eastern Ontario. Specifically, what do you feel as leader of your party, your government would do to support Eastern Ontario?
Well, I want to make sure, because that was my first trip. Actually, I hit Eastern Ontario numerous times. But when I went up and I stopped in all the towns, all the way down, starting up in Ottawa, and I worked my way all the way down to 401, I heard the same issues. That's what I'm saying, Amy. This is even about election. This is a movement that I've never heard before. It's not about being a PC, a Liberal, or NDP. Because every single time I go to these events, people come up to me and say, Doug, I'm an NDP voter my whole life, a Liberal voter my whole life, but I'm voting for you. So what they want, they want jobs, they want more taxes, they want more hydro waves. And P&G, Roger Gamble's leaving Rockville. So there's going to be 200-300 people out of the job. And the reason they're leaving, not competitive anymore to do businesses. So I'm going to make sure we create an environment and create jobs for the people, especially Eastern Ontario, but all across the province, put money back in their pocket instead of the government's pocket. And as for the seniors, the number one issue, Jamie, that I've been hearing about, it's always healthcare, which is the single most important issue for all of us, is dental care. The seniors can't afford dental care, so we're going to take care of all the dental costs for the seniors. They help build the cities, build the province, build the country. We've got to start giving back. And the other number one issue, or number two next to health, but it's something case is always number one, is every senior tells me, I want a great future, I want a great job for my kids, I want great education for my grandchildren, and it's not happening. So they care so much about their kids, rightfully so, and their grandchildren. They're you know, they just want the best for their families.
Well,
that's the number one issue for the seniors.
I know you have a crazy schedule today, so I just have two quick last questions. The first one being one of our local MPPs, Grant Crack, has announced that he's not going to be running this term, and a few other Liberals aren't running this term. Why do you think these Liberal MPPs aren't running?
I've heard that right across the province. When you say that, I was just crossing out by Welland and St. Catharines, and there's Liberals aren't even bothering running people. So even the Liberals insiders, they know that the party's over. And the party's over, the taxpayers' money, pack up your loot bags, everyone go home, the party's done, with disrespecting the taxpayers. So they know they're going to get trounced, and I guess they're jumping off ships like rats on a sinking ship.
All right, and the last question is, how far do the Leafs go in the playoffs this year?
I love the Leafs. Don't you love them? They're a young team. They're still young, so next year these kids are going to be bigger and stronger. I predict they're going all the way. I would not underestimate it. They're like lightning speed out there. I think we could probably next year try to pick up we got a solid defenseman, but it's always good to have one more solid defenseman and probably one more high-scoring offensive center or maybe not great wing, but man, they're exciting, and every game they're in. I'm a sports fanatic. I love the Leafs, so every single game they're in the game for the most part. And if they get trounced, then they come back swinging next day. But I can't wait to go to the playoff games. I'll see you down there. Come down. We'll go down there.
All right. Well, thank you for the time, and thank you for the interview, Mr. Ford.